Welcome to SchezzWho, the best spot for politics in the 757. The show is looking to grow in order to get more and more and more folks the knowledge they need to know on topics inherent to the 757 and in Greater Virginia. Then subscribe to this channel called SchezzWho on YouTube. And of course, like this video, comment on this video, ask questions, get a conversation going there in the comments. That would really help the engagement of the show, and I would greatly appreciate it. I want to thank the folks who keep the show going, like my lovely wife, Andrea, who is doing her thing over in the state government now. She's awesome, and her efforts created this channel in the first place. Love you. I'm proud of you. There's also Miss Ellen over at Ellen's Homestyle and Barbecue. She serves great tasting food. I love her fried fish. She has two great locations in Virginia Beach across from Regent University and in Portsmouth across from Victory Crossing on Portsmouth Boulevard. I also want to thank Mr. Seiko Varner. He pushed me to get started in doing shows, and here I am. He's the founder of the Hampton Roads Green Book app, which allows you to find Black and Brown-owned businesses in the 757. He's also the creator of Positive Vibes Incorporated. So look up Positive Vibes Incorporated. He helps you out on a lot of different financial avenues. And he's also good for entertainment. He's a great DJ, so look him up. Tonight is SchezzWho's first real trip across the Elizabeth River and into Norfolk. Running for Norfolk's Superward 6 seat is Jeremy Mason, and I'm going to go ahead and invite him on right now. Good, sir. Mr. Mason, how are you tonight? You're doing good? It's great. I got off work a little while ago. I had to travel all the way from Virginia Beach. So was able to dabble in traveling through Norfolk and into the tunnel. So this will be very topical for me. I hope you have fun. Let's roll into some of these great questions that I have for you. I'd like to lead off a bit with your background. Let us know more about yourself, your history, things you like most about the city of Norfolk.
Oh, yes, I'm Attorney Mason. I'm originally from Virginia Beach, but I was born in Port of Spain, Trinidad. My family's Jamaican, but I've been here since I was 5 years old. Then from there, I graduated high school at Tallwood. I went to undergrad in Louisiana, and I also went to law school in Louisiana and came back here about 2016 and started practicing law, and I've been in Norfolk ever since practicing law. And a lot of things I do like about Norfolk is it's easygoing. It's a lot of access to a lot of different type of things, and most people you get along with, especially I live downtown. Most people are very open, but there's a lot of things that people don't know about Norfolk that I want to help expose, and part of my platform is tourism. So we have some good things going.
Speaking of tourism and Norfolk, did you by chance go to Carib Fest?
That's a good question. I went last year, but I didn't go this year. I think there was some rain involved that kind of threw off my schedule, but I was planning to make an appearance there, but I did not go. And I did go last year, and there was a lot of good food. So anybody that's never been, you should definitely try that out.
Yeah, it was definitely very happening there at Town Point Park. My wife and I actually volunteered as part of the parade. So that was very interesting to go all the way through downtown Norfolk and then back through to Town Point. That was quite rainy, though. So
But I did run across that parade because when I live in the area, so I did see there was a guy on stilts. That was very interesting. I don't know if you remember seeing him, but I saw him.
Yeah, I did see that.
He was very talented.
Also got to see a lot of Trinidadian flags.
Oh, yeah. They had a good, strong presence, that's for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you hail from Virginia Beach partially, and I do as well. Now, which used to have an at-large voting system with their districts, and now it's pure districts. But I now live in Portsmouth. It's fully at-large.
Right.
Chesapeake has at-large voting come up in its forums this year. I've been to a few. And many council candidates say, no, they don't want any districts. One wanted to know a city where it actually works districts. Well, Norfolk happens to be one that has districts, and you're running for Super Ward 6. Is it working in Norfolk, those districts? What do you like about it?
I do like the fact that it's sectored off. It's almost as if each ward or each district, however you want to put it, has their own mini mayor, and that mini mayor goes to the table with all the other mini mayors, and then we sit down with the big mayor and we work things out. So you have your own individual representative focus on the people from that district, from that ward, which I think is reasonable. Instead of at large, it's kind of like you just have a bunch of people representing one city. And I think the ward system adds some really good structure.
Kind of like it too. Some might try to use the word ward as a bit of a pejorative, especially if they're talking about it in Virginia Beach or Chesapeake or something like that. It just means a district. It just means direct representation.
Right.
And in that vein, I would just point to the state of Virginia. The House of Delegates is direct representation of a district. Why can't a city have the same thing? Because there are many different flavors to Norfolk. There's Ghent, there's downtown, there's Ocean View.
Exactly.
This is a character all into those little communities that needs their own specific representation, because I have the opinion that if you are at large, the character is going to get diluted amongst the entirety of the city, or at least that's my view of it. So I like the fact that you also like the concept of district voting. And speaking of, let's look at your specific district here for the moment, Superward 6. Can you tell me a little bit about that area and its character?
It's a large ward, so it starts downtown, and then from there it's up Hampton Boulevard. We go through ODU, then we get by the military base, and then we're also in Ocean View and a lot of large parts in between. So it's a very excuse me, my top bar always does this. Want to make sure it looks right. I can actually see it now, so I'm adjusting it. But no, it's a vast ward, but there's a lot of different parts in it, a lot of different characterizations of things of, like I said, from downtown all the way to Ocean View. So it's large. It's very large and represents a good business structure, business side of Norfolk.
Speaking of business, I want to roll into the next aspect of business, as my screen minimized here briefly. I can think of several things that might be floundering in Norfolk that might need some saving, like the old Kmart on North Military Highway. Janif has a lot of turnover. Military Circle Mall is no more, and there are plans to try to do something new there. So what are your thoughts on those areas? Where should Norfolk improve on them and other small businesses?
Well, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing is figuring out where we're going to get the resources from to do that. So, a part of my platform is the CPACE program, which allows us to use energy efficient housing. So, if you use energy efficient components for flooding and solar aspects to help out the community, you get federal grants for that. And then I think when you combine that with the $1.9 billion the city of Norfolk is going to be allocated, there's ways to put resources into certain developments and make them for good commercial businesses, make it attractive for them to come here, which is going to ultimately help broaden our tax base in that range.
All righty. Now, I think you also, as part of your website, like to put on your platform the need and to want to address homelessness a little bit better. I would like you to tell me about what you would like to do regarding that on council.
Yeah, homelessness has a baseline root cause of mental health. So mental health is a big part of my platform, which ultimately gives people a way to get back to what they were doing before. Like addiction and mental health really are the cause most of the time. I'd say probably about 95% of the time of homelessness. So I partnered with a company called Lightbeam, and our goal is to make it aesthetically pleasing, the housing that we put them in, provide them with structure as far as regards to getting jobs, helping them with their resumes, be able to provide them with proper clothing and attire for when they go back into the community to help make a functioning member of society, as opposed to just allowing the homelessness to be a revolving door, a cycle, but actually attack the major issues of what caused the individual to be homeless in the first place. But they made a mistake, and a lot of times people realize that, well, once you're homeless, it's just, oh, that's that. He made a mistake. But sometimes people are put in positions where addiction takes over and mental health takes over, and they don't know where to start. So I think once we can address that in a strong way, and we have an outlet to help us with that, that will help a lot of the citizens and reduce a lot of the issues like violence and homelessness and things of that nature when we address the mental health issue head on.
I do appreciate that, because I think that that is literally an underserved community, and the city is responsible for all of the communities at once, and addressing it is a good thing. You highlighted here on your website, which I have highlighted here, folks, that is Basin for Ward 6. .com with the platform right here, and it does touch on both small businesses and homelessness. I like the fact that you're going to head into that directly because I think that needs a little bit more direct help. So, in going into my next question, I've been to many a Virginia Beach mayor forum this particular cycle, and Bobby Dyer, who's the current mayor of Virginia Beach, is railing against municipal employee collective bargaining, and he cites Norfolk Mayor Kenny Alexander as telling him that it would ruin the city of Virginia Beach if they do it. Now, Norfolk voted against it recently as well. What are your thoughts on that vote, and how would you have voted, and why?
That's a really good question. That's a very controversial question too. So I think you're doing a good job as a journalist. I'll tell you that. So I like collective bargaining agreement. I'm an attorney, and I feel like there's always a place to where you can reasonably negotiate. I think a lot of people are scared of collective bargaining agreement or don't like it because I think people that are at the table may have unreasonable expectations, which causes halts, which causes delays, and which causes strikes. But ultimately, if you have the right people there that have the best interest of everybody as a whole, then I think collective bargaining can be a very good thing and a very good tool. And to take it on a wider level, yes, Virginia Beach may not have it, Norfolk may not have it, but there are a lot of cities across the state, country, and most likely the world that benefit off of that because you want to have a checks and balances system in place. You don't want to have the city being able to dictate everything across the board, and it's almost like take it or leave it, and we move on. So that's ultimately going to leave disgruntled workers, people that are frustrated with the process, and it doesn't have people happy when they're driving, for instance, buses or city workers where they almost like, well, I have no choice but to do this, and we have no voice. I think any society should want to have everybody having a particular a voice. Now, how strong and how far that voice goes is one thing, but be able to at least articulate yourself to say, look, we have some concerns. These are concerns, and we want to talk about them as opposed to not having that outlet. That just seems clearly just seems unfair.
I second many parts of that because I am a city employee in Virginia Beach. I work for the Parks and Recs Department. I like the idea of the workers having a stronger voice, and that is what the aim of city employee collective bargaining is supposed to do. But when you hear like the mayor of Norfolk and the mayor of Virginia Beach talk about it, they are worried too much about costs. Like it's too hurtful to the taxpayer as opposed to maybe beneficial to the city worker. And then you see someone like Bobby Dyer support public-private partnership programs that are pretty heavy on the taxpayer dollar too. So it's like,
What's the standard with that? Exactly. What is the standard with that? But I mean, it's one of those systems to where it's, and I hate to say it, it's almost like the little man is here, and we will say whatever we want to say about that, but we don't want to give them a voice, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate because that's clearly kind of what that's saying without saying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Rolling into the next question, I think it's going to involve around engagement. Do you view your role as a city council person to be a good one for increasing city engagement with the public and how it relates with the government? How does it all come together with public safety in your view?
Yeah, city engagement is great. I mean, that's something that you would want to have. Public safety is what everybody looks forward to. That you want to walk out your home and feel safe. You don't want to feel like anything is going to happen to you. And a lot of that is based off the resources that are provided to the city. Again, I feel as if the CPACE program offers a lot to the city of Norfolk because we can get funding for using things that will help us in regards to energy efficient components, which we can offset the budget and use that $1.9 billion to put back in to other resources to help out with public safety.
Now, where do you see a lot of the things that might be currently hurting in terms of public safety in Norfolk? Do you think crime needs to be addressed in a specific way that council is not currently doing, that you have ideas?
Well, I think it's like that crime question is always brought up, and everybody wants like the perfect answer for that. But that's something that's going to happen when it's top of a fingers. You have to kind of get down to the level of education, the level of resources, the level of what other options do people have other than crime. Crime is stemmed from the lack of having other avenues and other opportunities to be. So when people get frustrated, They feel like they have no other way out, which builds also deal with mental health, which causes them to lash out. That's violence. Now, other criminal activity is because there's no other thing that you're doing that you're not risking anything. So you take other routes to feed yourself, get means, which is illegal, which puts you in the realm of that could potentially cause violence as well. So it's just really a conversation that needs to kind of be addressed at the root level. Education is a major part of my platform. The city of Norfolk, I believe, is at a 57% accreditation rate, if not lower. And we need to figure out ways to help come up with trades to help out these students, or come up with ways to keep them involved and keep them off the streets. I mean, it might sound far-fetched, but I think we should allocate some amount of funds for after school programs that allow students to build their grades, but give them incentives for coming, whether it's a stipend, cash is one thing, or coupons to go to certain restaurants, but something to get involved to where it's different and it's not just, oh, we want you to do this for a later result. Was ultimately, okay, I don't know if you can remember when you was in high school, direct rewards are what the adolescents and younger individuals respond to. So we just want to get creative ways to get people involved to keep them off the streets.
And that is a good segue into the public school aspect of Norfolk. And what might be your view on Norfolk City school modernization? How do you view your future votes on funding to improve infrastructure and employee pay relating to schools?
I mean, absolutely. Those are the resources that we need to allocate. So I keep on pushing on finding funds to offset our budget, so where we can put those extra amount of funds into those schools. I've heard that students go to school, and I've seen some of the schools myself where they're falling apart. The cafeteria, what they're providing them to eat, is not adequate. It's to the point to where some of them get a chicken leg and some bread, and you want them to perform at a high level through the rest of the day in school. And so it's not a fun place that you even want to be. It's not aesthetically pleasing. We can use funds, and hopefully we get funds that are not in the budget, to build new schools and put us in a position where kids look forward to going to school. It shouldn't be a chore. And then if it's a chore, then that makes them not want to be there, which causes them and pushes them to the street, which ultimately leads to being a career criminal, because you don't have no other outlet but that. But if we want to keep them, make them understand that school is a way out, is a way for you to level up, and is a way for you to make it fun. So I think that we need to put as many resources as we can into education to give these students an opportunity for the next level.
I appreciate that aspect. And in regards to school modernization, again, my thoughts go to Virginia Beach, because like this past Saturday, I was at Kellam High School for an educational thing for myself as a parks employee in Virginia Beach, with a lot of other parks employees. And I got to see how great that high school was. And it's the most recent built high school in Virginia Beach. I think it was about 5 to 10 years ago it was built.
Right.
It's like $187 or so million, if I recall, from Councilwoman Rosemary Wilson said at a forum. But she then quoted what Princess Anne, the next high school to be built, to be rebuilt, would be costing about $280 something million. And that's a pretty big markup in just about 5 to 10 years. So in that instance, do you think Norfolk has a lot to worry about over the decades about increasing cost, about building schools like that? And is that going to hurt the taxpayer too much?
I mean, inflation is going to be inflation. And again, I mean, you're asking questions that are directly to our platform. We want to find ways to offset that, and that's finding federal funding. And if we build these schools that have storm resistance, solar panel aspects to help the community, energy efficient components, we can find funding to help build through that. And I think that will help us out, because that is a big hit. And the market changes a lot, but inflation is a serious thing, and that's going to continue to rise every year when we're trying to build these schools. I mean, a lot of these schools were built in like the 50s, 60s, if not earlier. So ultimately, it's going to have to change, and it's going to be a big hit, because either we're going to use the right ways to restore them, or we're going to have to build brand new ones. And I think ultimately the city of Norfolk deserves for them to have brand new schools. And I think that's one of the ways to do it, to try to way to offset it, partner up with a lot of these big time investors with federal funding, get creative to where we're not putting a strain on Norfolk and the taxpayers. Just creative ways to find the funding, which is not impossible, because there's a lot of people out there that would do it if we can make Norfolk more attractive for people to want to even move here. So we're going to invest into the schools, invest into the business. So it's a whole collective vision that I do have, and I think it can be executed with the right people and the right people just putting forth the effort to have the genuine interest in making the city better.
I hear that, and I definitely hear the part about looking for additional sources of revenue outside of the Norfolk taxpayer, because the state of Virginia, via Richmond's General Assembly, is big in trying to fund a lot of cities like Norfolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, as well as DC. So if we're able to get more money in that way, or the perspective is to get more grants and stuff coming in, would you want to use your voice as a council member to be like a more of an advocate, literally going to Richmond and DC to stump for those things?
Absolutely. And some things are unreasonable requests, but I don't think that's an unreasonable request or a hard ask. I mean, we're asking for funding for education for Norfolk, which ultimately is a real pulse for the state of Virginia. We want to make Norfolk better. We want to grow Norfolk responsibly, and it starts with our schools. It starts right there.
Oh, I would second that. Definitely second that. Now, Norfolk could do wonders, of course, for those students to keep a pipeline of youngsters growing up and staying in Norfolk after they graduate high school. After graduation, there's Eastern Virginia Medical School, there's Old Dominion, there's Norfolk State, and there's Virginia Wesleyan. Is Norfolk doing enough to foster high school students to stay home and go to college?
I don't think so, and I'll do you one better. I think that's another part of my platform is to grow Norfolk responsibly. We want to create tax breaks for our local talent to stay here, whether it's offering them scholarships to stay here. But then, if they go to school here, we want to offer tax breaks, for housing, whatever we can help our talent, whether it's the military, whether it's the students at ODU, Norfolk State, wherever they are, and also you don't want to focus on that aspect. Even people that do graduate and they go into trades, we want to make it attractive. If you meet a benchmark, we want you to stay here. We want to reward you for that because we want to keep our talent here to help with our tax base in other ways to grow Norfolk responsibly. And I think we owe it to our city to look out for that because a lot of people do leave. People get to a point to where, look, I have a good enough amount of grades or good enough amount of experience. Let me take my talents to a bigger market. But why would they have to do that if they can stay here? If we start off with making it a reason for them to do that, and then from there we can build off of that.
Yeah, if we're, say, in a competition with other 757 cities. When I grew up in Virginia Beach, I stayed home and still went to Old Dominion. Portsmouth doesn't have a university. Chesapeake doesn't have a university. Newport News and Hampton do. So that would be more of a direct competition that you might have to deal with. But man, 4 strong schools there in Norfolk, just keeping people at home. Incentives perhaps could help out with that. And that could be a good role for city council to do. And I like the idea that you're mindful of that going into that. I think another aspect of what might keep more people here, perhaps even spur more people to move to Norfolk, is housing. And how's the housing situation in Norfolk? How would you like to address it? Is it too high prices, too short a supply? What would you like to change?
Yeah, the housing is an issue across the country, but it's definitely one here in Norfolk. Using the CPACE program to find federal funding to help build these homes will actually reduce the cost of the homes for the investor, which will ultimately reduce the cost of purchasing the home for the home buyer. We also can get with investors and the city of Norfolk to partner with them to create baselines to the situation to where the homes are not costing as much. There's a lot of creative ways that we can do that. There's a lot of homes that can be restored, refurbished, using energy efficient components, which could provide money, which could make that also a place for affordable living and sustainable housing for a market that is extremely gouged. And there's also municipalities that we can put in to say, look, certain landlords, you want to cap you at certain things in certain areas, so you're not just charging on based on what you think the market should be, but have a reasonable approach to it that does help the business person, but also does help the leasee or the individual living there. So it's just a fair approach that we can balance it based on analyzing the market and just having a mindful approach when we go into it.
Yeah, it's always important to be mindful of that because elsewise you're going to get city council members and mayors and city managers that sort of lose interest because they're too worried about business interests as opposed to resident interests.
Right.
So,
And there's always a fine line there that you do want to make sure you think about everybody collectively, but there's a way that it can be done because I learned when you have a will, there's always a way to create a way to make everybody happy to a certain extent that works for the environment and works for the city.
and following up on the use of the environment and tabulating with housing here, do you think Norfolk has a bit of a finite amount of area to even build housing? Because we have a lot of military bases right there. You can't like build onto that. That's federal property. You have to the best of our ability. Parks are really good for just the scenery of Norfolk if you can keep it. So what does that do for the rest? Is that a whole new vision that you might need to have in terms of housing in order to balance the military, the good environment of parks, and just tearing down maybe old houses and building new ones? Is that the type of vision that the city
Yeah,
needs?
so there's around Norfolk, I don't know if you've noticed, there's some blighted property. There's property that could be took down, rebuilt, or refurbished. Also, there's places where you can build up. Downtown Norfolk is actually building up a lot, where there's different condos, apartment complexes that are going vertical as opposed to horizontal because of the things that you just mentioned. As far as the city, the space is an issue, but I think once you're able to look at the landscape and see the direction that you can go, you're able to make those decisions soundful. And right now, building up is what I can see. But once you're there and you'll be able to analyze the land properly, I think there's other ways you can go about it as well.
Good, good. Now, I lost my Volkswagen Jetta in Norfolk to Hurricane Matthew. And Matthew flooded pretty much every 757 city. But I remember Norfolk flooding bad as far back as the 1990s when I would visit my dad at Bay Chevrolet and North Military Highway. Um, I'm always reminded of the fact that Willoughby Spit as an area was created by a hurricane and could just as easily be eradicated by a hurricane. Factoring in that in general flood mitigation, what is your vision? Where do you think Norfolk is falling short and where should it go?
Yeah, Norfolk is one bad storm away from a major disaster. I believe on the East Coast we have the worst ratio for sea levels. That's one. We did some research. There is ways. Again, I will fall back on this CPACE program. They will provide funding if you do use energy-based efficient components and flood resistance and flood resilience aspects to building homes and building businesses. But we go on as far as research that there's asphalt that will actually absorb rainwater. The pipes in Norfolk are outdated. The storm water access the pipes are small. We can get into where we can figure out how do we make that a better way, and then we can figure out a way we can direct the rainwater to go to certain places that do probably need water as opposed to that. So you have to be creative. There's a way to build or change the aspects of how houses are sitting on the land and just have a mindful, consistent approach because, like you said, it's not getting better. It does flood every time it rains, and we don't want to be in a position where we're a sitting duck. But there's ways to fix it, and we just have to get the city up to par to where it needs to be at to deal with it. And I think that's a clear example of the city, the pipage in the city, and things that should be able to deal with these rainwater, which is sometimes it's regular rainstorms that cause these floodings. And I just think that's a clear indication that we need to change a lot when it comes to that stormwater drainage.
Now, I appreciate that you're able to give good thoughts on the very important things that are needed for the city government to do, the responsibilities therein. You also want to represent, of course, the people themselves. So as we near the end of this, I would like you to just tell me a little bit about some of your favorite overall things in Norfolk. I'll give a couple of mine. I love going to Tides games. I love doing that parade in Norfolk and just going to Waterside. I went to ODU, so I'm going to hype the Monarchs as much as I can. Going to the beach at Ocean View is nice. They got great athletics in terms of high school sports there. I think Maury is always a threat to win a state championship. Lake Taylor, of course. Give some of your just the great things you like about the city from businesses, community organizations, stuff you would like to shout out right here.
Yeah, you took a lot of my steam with all the things you said, but no, I love Ocean View. It's always peaceful over there when you get to the beach. There are a lot of good businesses in the city that have done well. The food is great. The diversity is good in parts of Ward 6. Um, Working down here, I'm an attorney. I can say that, going to work from where I live is convenient. It's quiet to some certain extent, and people are nice down here in Norfolk. And there's a lot of things to offer. There's a rich history. When you walk around this downtown area, you see all the type of museums aspects, and you can see things. You can read about the history. That Norfolk's been here for a long time. It's one of the earliest, if not the first, pretty much the first few cities that we've had in the country, let alone in the state. And I think some of that tourism aspects need to be presented properly. I stay downtown. The boats come in, the cruise ships come in, people come off, and they seem to be very excited to be here. They like what we have to offer in small doses, and I think we can grow it responsibly. And to your point about the tides, my office is right next to that, 999 Waterside Drive, Mason Legal. I do title work there, but when I was there, and they won the championship last year. I'm sure you remember that. The stadium was full. People were coming. So I think we're almost, if not ready now for a professional team, I think we could handle that with surrounding cities and finding the right funding and ways to fund it without using the tax dollars. I think crowdfunding, people want to invest in that. And I think that's something that we can look into. There's a lot of things that Norfolk is untapped in, and there's ways that we can elevate ourselves and not just being a flyover city, but actually a city that people want to seek out and come to.
Now, I thank you, of course, for mentioning the museum aspects of City of Norfolk, because that's where I had my wedding, was right there at Chrysler Museum. So
congratulations. Beautiful picture.
That, nearing our anniversary on October 28th. So
congratulations.
Great to experience Norfolk when we do. And just that was a great night because Chrysler Museum is a great place.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a really good things about Norfolk. I was about to throw it to just the closing statement about yourself, and I forgot. I would like to ask about this. Light rail was new as of right around 08, 09, and it didn't go into any other cities. But there's been thoughts of expanding it over the years to other parts of Norfolk. Do you like that as a general concept going over the next 10, 20 years, perhaps giving some more routes to the tide, I think is what they used to call it?
Yeah, the tide. I think that is a creative way to help out with transportation. A lot of people aren't for it, but I think that's because they don't see a vision of a Norfolk growing responsibly. I think if you want to grow, and obviously it's going to be more of a dense population, I think testing it out to expand in maybe one area, see how it goes, and slowly growing the tide to where we can make it very beneficial to a lot of people here. And I think people that are fortunate enough to be able to ride the tide to work, school, and home benefit from that. They love that. But everybody can't have that because it doesn't go far enough. You can probably park and ride, and that's also a good aspect as well too. But I think if you want to sustain yourself with a lot of the other cities on the East Coast and around the country, you have to have that proper public transportation that is accessible, easy, and very convenient for it. So creatively, I think that's a great thing. But the thing is, we have to see how it affects the tax dollars and obviously where we can build it and grow it. But once you're involved in those situations, you can have answers to those questions that benefit everybody around. So I think creatively to grow the city properly, you're going to want to look at how can we use the tide to benefit us. Because right now, anybody that sees it, I mean, the stops are very minimal. So I mean, why would you not want to help the rest of the city with transportation? Because that's going to ultimately help our businesses, help people that want to get to where they need to go with schools, and make it more aesthetically pleasing for our citizens to say, look, we said we got the tide. We can go all around Norfolk on the tide, and I don't even need a vehicle. A lot of people can't say that in Virginia. I think that would be something cool to say, look, well, I don't need to go to D.C. I don't need to move somewhere else because I can get to work back and forth without a car, and I'm making a good amount of money, and I'm sustaining myself and my family with public transportation. I don't think many people in Norfolk can say that.
Indeed. Just to compare it to a neighboring city, Virginia Beach, the Norfolk Southern rail line is no more. So the old tracks are there. They thought about bringing in light rail, voted against it. Now they have no idea what to do with it, and they're thinking about making it a bike trail. So there's an important vein of infrastructure for the city of Norfolk is that light rail. So
Correct.
Whether or not it could expand, we'll see over the years. Perhaps you might be able to help that along. What I would like to do now is give you the floor to give you the opportunity to do your elevator pitch for viewers and of Superward 6 alike to know why they should vote for you. And while you do that, I'll put your website back on the screen. Again, that is for masonforward6.com, and I'll move around on it. You, sir, give us the reason why we should vote for you.
Well, I'm gonna say I'm an attorney, Jeremy Mason. I've been representing my clients extremely well over the past few years, and I plan to do the same thing for every single citizen of Ward 6. I'm very passionate about any client I take on, and I believe Ward 6 will be a client of mine. I heard that there's a large issue with the disconnect between the local citizens and the local government. I want to help bridge that gap and be somebody the city can lean on with transparency. We want to do press releases, whether it's quarterly or as often as we can do it. I believe our platform is sound in regards to how we want to address economic development. We want to eliminate food deserts. We definitely want to focus on education, tourism, transportation. Sports is a lobbying for professional teams is a part of it, and ultimately mental health and flooding. There's a lot of issues in Norfolk right now, and I think we need to keep that dialogue going with proper checks and balances, with proper inclusion for the citizens. And ultimately, a lot of people ask me why I should do it. I'm a really good person. I'm not an individual that's been groomed through the politic ranks, which some could say, well, that's a bad thing because he doesn't have political experience. But I'm an attorney. I know policy, I know laws, I know logic, and I know creativity and innovation. And we can all say that if you've been living in the Hampton Roads area for over the past 10 years, you can see Norfolk is shrinking in a way. Businesses are suffering, left and right, they're being closed. Now we have a casino, which is going to help us bring economic development and tourism. But we want to have the right people in there, making sure that once this casino hits, that things just don't go haywire, because things can go haywire when you add that big vessel into a city that's been declining over the past few years. We just want to have good people in there that actually genuinely care. We want to change the narrative. If you want the same things that you had before, then I would say don't vote for me. But if you want change to push Norfolk in the right direction, I say you see my name on the ballot, Attorney Jeremy Mason. Just know you have somebody in there that has your best interests at heart, because I'm ethically bound as an attorney to make sure I do all those things properly for anybody that lives in my ward, and just for anybody that's a citizen of Norfolk, period. So I feel good about what we want to do, and I just hope that people can see our vision and want to put us in that seat.
Thank you so much, sir, for being able to come here to SchezzWho tonight, speak to the viewers, have the viewers learn more about yourself, so when they go out to vote, either early voting or on election day, they are more mindful about who they should choose by November 5th. So again, thank you so much for coming on, good sir. I hope you have a great night for the rest of the night. And of course, good luck over the rest of the election season.
Thank you. Thank you, Sven. If you want to look out for us on Mason for Ward 6 is our website, and Mason for Norfolk City Council is my Instagram to find out more information about what we're doing. And see you guys soon, Norfolk citizens. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Catch you next time, Mr. Mason. Now, I also want to throw it, of course, to a good friend, Miss Ellen, over at Ellen's Homestyle and Barbecue Express. Great food. And, man, I wish I had some of her fish right now. Remember, Portsmouth Boulevard in Portsmouth is a location. And across from University Shops in Virginia Beach near Regent University. Of course, Mr. Seiko Varner over Positive Eyes Incorporated. Write that number down. Give him a contact for credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. And of course, you are watching SchezzWho. So make sure you like this episode, you subscribe to this channel, and come back for our next one, which will literally be tomorrow night as I bring on Portsmouth School Board member Clue Atkinson, who is running again for Portsmouth School Board. You're going to want to make sure you tune into that and comment, ask questions, get a conversation going so we all can learn more. And as this channel grows, it'll be all because of you, because you made it happen. And we'll catch you both Wednesday night and Thursday night. On to the next one. You guys have